Hey, a little birdie tells me you might need to hear this. So hopefully this helps. You were a victim. And the reason I say that is because it can become very easy, even in the most extreme events, to look back and rationalize or come to the conclusion that somehow you didn't do enough. That because you were helpless, you were weak. Because you couldn't do anything, couldn't fix it, or wasn't able to resolve it on your own, or the fact that it was all too much. You're not weak because of that. And I need you to listen. That does not make you weak. Being helpless. There are situations where anyone, at any age, adult or child, would be helpless, would be unable to help themselves. And if you find yourself struggling with this, looking back at what happened, telling yourself you're a wimp, you're useless, should have done something, should have done more, I want you to stop. Take the most important, most significant person in your life right now. Imagine them in that same scenario, that same event, that same situation, at the same age. Are they weak? Are they useless? No. You wouldn't call anyone else that if they went through what you went through. So don't call yourself that. You were a victim. You were taken advantage of. You weren't able to do much. These things can get very complex. I'm not going to make out like this is going to apply to everyone. Abuse comes in all forms. But I know how easy that is to happen. To think this way, to feel this way. And I need you to get it through your head. You were not the problem. I don't know the context. I don't know what happened. I don't even know who you are. But I highly doubt there was anything you did to deserve what happened, what they did to you. Another thing is, if you're listening to this and you find yourself thinking, oh, it's nothing, it could have been worse, or you know someone who's gone through worse, you should not compare what you went through to others. At all. That isn't how things should work. If we were at a hospital and I've got a broken arm and you've got 2 broken arms, should I hold in my pain? Should we tell the guy next to you who's got cancer he should get over himself, he hasn't got leukemia and dementia at the same time? This line of logic that it could always be worse is a dangerous one to take. Suffering and pain is subjective. There is no objective level in that sense. We tend to call a child a wimp or, see their reaction to their first most painful event as indifferent. And I want you to think about this. That seems weird to an adult or to someone older than them, because if we're talking about a paper cut or just like a graze, it's a graze. You're used to it. You cannot compare yourself, because if we haven't gone through something, we simply don't know how much that hurts. We don't know how it feels. We can try to understand. That does not mean that you should say that yours was nothing, yours is little. If you find yourself having nightmares about it, if you find yourself losing sense of reality because of it, having flashbacks, if you find yourself having thoughts, emotions, all coming from that one event, driving you now unconsciously, I'm sorry, but that is not nothing. If it brings you to tears every night, if it haunts your life in some way or form, if it interrupts everything you do in life, every passion, every hobby, every relationship, every friendship, that's not nothing, is it? And I'm not trying to make it daunting and overwhelming. I'm trying to remind yourself to just remember that you should not compare yours, that it is not nothing. It's not something little. Anything can seem little when we put it in a certain way of looking at it, a certain way of saying it. When we feel a certain way, suddenly, oh yeah, it didn't mean anything. Moods change, emotions change, but the event does not. If you're listening to this and you find yourself thinking, oh, I didn't go through physical, I only went through verbal or something like that, it's still abuse. Doesn't matter. You still went through some suffering. You still went through something awful, overwhelming, something that maybe even caused you not to process that entire event. And maybe you find yourself struggling to understand what truly happened. And maybe you're struggling because you remember. But the memory gives you a reaction that doesn't make sense. Maybe it doesn't seem traumatic. Maybe the event doesn't seem too extreme. Trauma doesn't work like that. People tend to think it's the nature of the event. It's not always. If anything, it's how you feel. It's your perception. It's how you see it. You don't have to be abandoned to feel it. You can perceive it. Especially at a younger age, when we see the world entirely differently. We don't understand how it works. Not fully. The nuances, the complex nature. It's not there. And these things are very difficult. Representations of that event, or what remains of it, still sending emotions, thoughts, feelings, ideas. That doesn't sound like something little. That can become extremely detrimental really quick. Dropping the whole YouTube act, this is something I relate to. Not going to trauma dump. Not going to be specific. But yeah, I went through all three forms of abuse. Not in it anymore. Not in that situation anymore. But I went for it. Witnessed it. So when I hear a friend of mine, or even just a stranger's gone through it, this is the advice I try to give. I listen to what they have to say, what they went through. And I try and remind them these things. Because while I went through it, I caught myself definitely feeling helpless, hopeless, useless, weak, everything. Maybe that I was to blame, somehow. No smoke without fire, right? Wrong way around, but you know what I mean. The world is complex. Situations are not as simple as that. You're not to blame. And you're not to belittle yourself and bring yourself down. You can't change the past. Unfortunately. And that hurts. To wipe away the memory or everything that happened would be amazing. While we can't change the past, we can focus on the now. If the world's getting too much, if you're pushing yourself too hard, if you are really constantly trying to find answers about it, what happened to you, what went down, trying to understand it, trying to process it, remember to take breaks. Everyone has a limit. And even when the nature of it seems different, can seem alien, or doesn't fully come, it's powerful at the end of the day. It's not something you can rush. You can't rush grieving someone. Same with this. Because you're not just trying to remember an event, it's reliving it. And when we remember a memory, we're not watching it like on a TV. In our head, all our senses activate. And it kind of has to locate what you saw, what you felt, what you heard. You're essentially creating it. Like when you create a picture in your head, or when you imagine things, it's no different. It's not just a video, it's a complete experience. And when we go for an event that's too much, or it's abusive or traumatic in any way, or trauma and abuse, we tend not to process it. You can end up, while you went through it, you just don't fully experience the experience like you do with other things. So things get forgotten along the way. I won't go too wordy here because this is just a YouTube video, but there's a model. There's many models. And they state that you process everything throughout your daily experience. You get things through your senses and, you process everything. When you go for an event that's too much, you don't. It doesn't really go with everything else. In fact, it kind of stays in its own little environment. There's even one out there that states that there's a version of you, or a somewhat version of you, even just a cognitive version of you that's experiencing that event every day, somewhere down in your unconscious. And it's that part of you that starts to think differently, see differently, and it can influence you. Again, this isn't always the case. It doesn't always go that way. But it can happen. Hearing that, it doesn't sound too like nothing now, does it? And lastly, if you feel lost, in life. Existential. Not just about your situation you find yourself in, but about what you want to do. A purpose, a goal to go for, something that is a passion for you. If you feel like you haven't quite found that thing, you know how people zone into it and they kind of lose track of everything else, or they ramble on for hours. It's probably because you never had the right setting. To give the most expectant analogy, a flower. But instead of blossoming and growing, you're kind of stuck, as if the season hasn't changed. You can't fully come to yet. Finding yourself, whatever that is, obviously it's a very complex issue, but it can only kind of happen and take place when you're in a correct environment, when you're in a situation that helps it. In abusive environments, in places where it feels like you're walking on eggshells every day, hiding things, feeling like you have to lie about things, not sure how that person's going to be today, unpredictable. You are in the complete opposite place to grow as an individual, as a person. I'm not saying you're never going to. I really want you to not think that's what I'm saying, because far from it. You can grow. You can blossom. You can become whoever you will become. I know what you're thinking now. You're comparing yourself to others, thinking how you're going to be behind. It's going to take more time. We don't all have to follow the same thing at the same time. But I get it. That's me. As the ages are catching up on me, I kind of feel that there's a lot of things I haven't had the chance to do, the opportunity to do, because of my situation I was in. And I'm a lot more older than others who've already done that, experienced it, the whole lot. But life isn't a race. You know? You got plenty of time. It's frustrating. It's annoying. I'd love to get that time back. But it's the way things are. And in all honesty, you're going to be okay. You're alive. You're listening to this. There's a lot of things that could have happened that can make that different. Can get too much. Can really fuck you up. Can give you all these experiences you never thought you'd have. Not pleasant ones. Can make you lose yourself. More than just metaphorically. Lose who you are. How you function. How you want to be. How you want to act. Things you want. Can make your life just a mess to navigate. Best advice, if you're not out of that environment at the moment, as you're listening to this, get the fuck out of there. Plan it. Do what you need to. Even these things are complex. I can't try and say it's as easy as that. But put yourself there. And put yourself first. Maybe there's someone you want to take along with you that's stuck in that situation with you. I had to make this decision myself. It was either I enjoyed it for another couple years, or I got myself out of there first. You can save everyone else once you're out of the fire yourself. You're only going to burn up as well if you go in. And if you're out of that situation, I am so fucking proud of you. Even if it wasn't anything you did, I am proud of you for being alive. I'm proud of you for listening to this video this long. I'm proud of you. Maybe you haven't heard those words in a long time. Maybe you haven't heard them authentically. Maybe it's easier to hear a stranger say it than someone in your life, because you don't know who you can fully trust because of all of what's happened. Even though I don't know who you are, I am proud of you for being alive, being here, for trying, for listening to this, but also just giving yourself some time to be comforted, to be consoled, even if it's through a random inner voice. You're trying. And if you're healing, take it. I'm not going to say take each day as it goes. I don't like to give out generic advice. Take some time to yourself. Processing it. Learning how that's made you think. Understanding the things that have arose from it. It's not an easy process, and it's not something you can rush. And you never know. Everything in this can seem kind of daunting because, well, it can seem like a long road ahead. Not the case. I know someone who went through a lot, actually, in 4 months. Not completely gone, but actually a surprising amount managed to work through. And if you're just becoming aware, well done. You got through the first stage. It's awful, I know. Awareness is a blessing and a curse, but you will see why it's a blessing. You can only start healing, processing, overcoming once you've become aware of what's happened, or aware in general. This isn't just a trauma thing, just anything. Awareness is key. From awareness comes, okay, now what? Working out what needs to be. But yeah, if you feel lost, you're not going to be lost forever. And I'm not going to say, if you're this age, it's fine. You got all these years on you. Doesn't matter how old you are. Okay? To find you, who you are, honestly, I don't know. It's not something you've really had much of a lucky shot at. If this wasn't just a one-time event, and it was a constant living environment for you, especially if you're a kid. Not to say you're fucked forever, far from it. Just, the unfortunate, I don't like luck, misfortune of going through that. You can be you. You can learn to be you, and you can learn to outlearn all the habits you've learned from that environment. Whether that's keeping to yourself, isolating yourself, whether that's eating habits, whether that's trust issues, whether that's intimacy issues. You can. And I'm not saying it like it's just going to be a 1 week, 1 month thing. These things are context and everything else. These are very situational. But you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. You're trying. You're giving yourself some time to have some reassurance. You have some people in your life. If you feel comfortable sharing it with them, maybe reach out to them. If you feel you can trust them. Let them reassure you, not just some random internet stranger. And if it's helped, I'm happy. I feel like there's a lot more I could add, but I don't know. I thought about getting out a script and doing all these special things, and instead I just want to be me. For as long as I can be. Just want to be authentic. Anyway, I hope this helped. And I might do another one of these soon. Definitely different from my normal stuff. And yeah, thank you for watching, and thank you. I don't want to say for being kind to yourself, for being considerate of your own self. Another easy coping mechanism is taking care of others and using their problems to distract us from our own, so you're doing well on that front. Hey, you're a victim. Doesn't mean you have to live like one now. Doesn't mean you're going to be one forever. I mean that, no matter how bad it seems. Even if you're stuck in that situation right now and every day just seems the same, nothing stays the same. Things change. Very slowly. Whether it's caused by someone or just life. I'm not saying wait around, but some magical thing to help. The worst thing you can do is wait around for someone to come help. Help can only come if people know it's needed. But it's not always the best option, and it's not always easy. Unfortunately. Anyway, thank you all for listening to this. I'm going to stop now because I can feel my own authenticity starting to die and me just going back into my temporary self, let's say. So, yeah. Have a nice night, nice day. Make sure you eat. Try and sleep. I see you staying up late night. 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Get some sleep. Rest your mind. And take care of yourself. And thank you. This has been an interesting opportunity to be me. Bye.